Mm. 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 Hi guys, I don't know, can you hear me? Let me know, please. And welcome to another session number 2.2. Hello, Luana, Jesus, and Julia and Sam. Just let me know that you can hear me and I will kick off. Sound check, 1, 2, 3. Sound check, 1, 2, 3. Okay, cool. Well, I can hear myself then. Okay, guys. Today's session is going to be quite hands-on. So if you have your laptops and development environment open, you can type along and try these things, and then let me know in the chat how it works and if you have any issues. So what we are going to do is we are kind of going to put in practice what we discussed in the past few sessions. So we are going to actually show what this all means. Okay, so we talked about servers, we talked about object-oriented programming, we talked about Laravel and AppSource and all that sort of stuff. So now we are going to show that what does it all mean. Okay, so what I want to just recap kind of thing is that in your browser, which is an application that you have installed on your computer, you can type any URL. Okay, and if I type URL, so like YouTube example, something happens when I press enter. Okay, so this is the key thing. We need to understand how does this work. Okay, so when I press enter, the browser, okay, which is an app browser, asks your computer to connect to URL. Of course, browser doesn't know which URL, which server is connected to this URL, and neither does your computer. Okay, so when people register domains, or companies, organizations register domains, they also need to register the IP address, okay, of their computer, which is going to respond to requests to this. And this is propagated through internet. So there are many organizations which keep kind of like databases of all these pairs. So google.com would be, I don't know what number, and then microsoft.com would be another number, and so on. So what your computer does is asks a question. Hey, browser, one of the apps, wants to connect to appsource.com. So can someone tell me, some service, DNS service, can tell me which computer I need to connect to? Okay, so this is what it asks. Who does it ask? Well, it depends how your network is set up on your computer, but it's done automatically either by your internet service provider. So if you are on Zego, like myself, it will ask Zego. Or I can specify, don't ask Zego, ask Google, or whoever is provider of these DNS services. So what they tell my computer is that when browser wants to connect to, I don't know, appsource.com or any other URL, it actually gives the IP address. So then the browser tries to make a connection to that server over there through the IP address. And it is either on port 80 or port 443. If the address is HTTP, it's typically port 80, or if it's HTTPS, so it's a secured encrypted, then it will be on port 443. Okay, so the browser sends a request, goes to your computer figures out with these DNS services where does it need to go, and then tries to connect to either port 443 or port 80 of that computer which is sitting over there. So if I go to my console or terminal or whatever you want, what am I doing? Terminal, okay, and I just try to do ping, okay, and let's do bbc.co.uk, so BBC's website, okay. So basically this is what happens now. This is the IP address of this BBC's website. And any other website in the world has its own IP address. So we are trying to connect to this IP address. Okay? So computer sends a GET request to the IP on port 80 or 443. Okay? Typically, you want it to be on port 443, so the request is encrypted, okay? So it's HTTPS, okay? So that's fine. What happens over there on that computer? Well, that computer has to have some software. So that's our server, has to have some software, which in our case is Apache. And Apache is an application which registers to listen for requests on ports 8443 or any other port that we desire. But typically, if we want a website to work, then it's going to be these two. Okay, so it listens to request. Once it gets a request for some random computer in the world, say, hey, okay, then it processes that request. And as I said before, Apache is very, very, very dumb. If I say appsro.com YouTube example .pdf, it's going to give me that file. And if I don't put the extension of the file, then it's going to open that folder on my computer, okay? If in that folder there's index.html or index.php, if we added that, then it's going to open that file. If there isn't, it's going to show me the content of that folder, okay? So it's going to list it like File Explorer. So here are all the files in that folder. Click on one that you want to open, okay? So that's how Apache works, quite simple. Okay, so it either gives file or folder. Now, in order for us to not just give people either files or folders, but to serve them on web pages and so on, we have a thing called configuration, okay? And this configuration is this hidden htaccess files, okay? So what happens here is that inside the root folder of my website, we put this htaccess file, so Apache reads it every time, and then says, what's going on? So whatever you asked for, if it's a directory or folder, it checks what did you ask for. So directory is folder, directory or file. So folder or file, all right? So basically it rewrites this. And everything that you request goes to index.php. What the hell does this mean? Let me explain this a little bit better. Because here is a condition, and if you know anything about conditions, exclamation mark means if it's not, okay? So if request is for a specific file which exists on the computer, then it's going to give that file. If request is for specific directory which exists on the computer, it's going to go to that directory or folder. If it is not, that's what this exclamation mark means. So if the file doesn't exist or directory doesn't exist, then whatever the request is, whatever URL you typed, is going to go to index.php. Okay? So with this thing, I managed to get all the traffic to index.php, to this file here. Okay? So it doesn't matter what URL you request on my website. It doesn't matter who you are, how many people are. They all execute this code, okay? So they all got this sort of law, they all got this, and they got all that, okay? That's what gets executed. And this doesn't make much sense, I have no idea what this does. So let me try to explain what this does, okay? This starts a Laravel application in our case, because we are using Laravel framework, but it can be anything else, okay? But in this case, it starts a Laravel application. Laravel application has lots of stuff built in, okay? So it checks, are you logged in or not as a user? It checks, do you have a session? It checks, is everything installed and configured properly? It checks many things, There are settings such as is this website live or is this website in some sort of maintenance mode, so it displays the maintenance page, for example, okay? After it does all the checks that it needs to do, it typically hits the web routes at the end of the day, okay? So what this does eventually is hits the web routes. So So after doing .htaccess, it processes index.php and it ends up in web routes. Okay. Now my web routes is in routes web folder. Okay. So this is why web routes. Okay. So what it does in a web routes, it tries to match the second part. So this YouTube example that I typed here, it tries to put it here and see does it match any of these little links that I typed here. If it finds it, great. It will call this controller and it will call this function in that controller. So it will process that request. If it can't find it, it will complain about it. Okay. Of course, we don't want our websites to complain, so we typically handle this in some sort of way or form. So if I press enter now, I give a message that page is not found. Okay, so that page doesn't exist because, of course, I just invented this page and it's not in the list of my web routes. Okay, so in the web routes, you see quite often word get, and then sometimes and quite often you will see word post. These are most typical ones that the browser can request from our server. Either get me some information or send some information to the server. There might be others which are a little bit less used, like patch and so on, which kind of update some information, but get and post are the most important one. So today we'll just talk about the get. Okay, so get is the one that I can type here. So if I again say YouTube example, okay, what I can do here quite easily, and it doesn't matter in which order it is, I can put a YouTube example somewhere. Okay, so what I will do, I will just copy one of these. Okay, and let's put it somewhere at the beginning. Okay, so I don't want error, I want YouTube example. So I want this. Okay, and I want to have some sort of YouTube controller, okay, or test controller, and then I want to have some sort of a landing page, basic information, so let's call it a home page or something of this YouTube example. Okay, so now I define the route. One thing in VS Code, what I like to do is check this box auto save. So I don't have to save this as I type, it saves it automatically. So all the changes that I made are straight away saved, and I can just go to the browser and press enter. Now, of course, this is not going to work because I need to do a few more things, okay? But I got this lovely error message, and this is very important, okay? Because if you read what it says, it actually tells you what you missed, okay? And it has lots of information, okay? But, the key is in these bold letters. Your YouTube test controller does not exist. Of course, it doesn't exist. I just invented that name, So I have to make a YouTube test controller. Okay, and I can put that YouTube test controller wherever I want, but that's not very smart, because how the hell is this whole system going to find it? Okay, so it typically looks for the controllers here. Okay, so I can right click and say new file and call this YouTube test controller.php. Okay, so that's my YouTube test controller. So what do I need to put in this test controller? Well, let me just say, well, I'll copy all this and I'll paste it in my test controller, and then I will call this YouTube test controller because it has to match the name of the file and the name of the class. This is some comments. This is something from the controller that I copy pasted, so I don't need that. So this is basic controller, okay? I don't even need this user here, and probably I don't need facade because I'm not using any. Something like that, okay? And I can delete the space here. So now I created a basic controller, okay? What does this mean? Okay, it is, as we explained last time, this is the name of the file, this is the name of the class. Class is part of object-oriented programming, okay? So on its own, it's a blueprint, it doesn't do anything. So something somewhere has to make an instance of this class using the word new, okay? And that is what actually Laravel does for us. We don't have to worry about it. So when you get to this thing where it says, okay, if the user type this thing, I'm going to create this controller. I'm going to make an object out of it. Okay, so I don't have to worry about that. Laravel does it for me, so simplifies my little process. It makes it easier for me. So if I have multiple of these controllers with the same name, this is the namespace it belongs to. So this is kind of the full name of my controller, so I can distinguish it from others. So namespace is there to say where this controller is. So it is in app HTTP controllers folder. The name is that, and it extends another class called controller. Okay, and this controller is a main controller, so it gets all the functionalities of object or class called controller. Is this going to work now? No, of course not. But now I got a different message because it says method home does not exist in my YouTube test controller. So first it was complaining that I don't have YouTube test controller, which was true, I didn't make one. But now, because I made one, as I said, this is going to that controller and finding a function called home, okay? And of course I didn't define that function, so it doesn't exist, okay? You will find that many times there are a couple of names for the same thing. So in this case, it called it method, but it's a function, okay? So I'm going to type function home. So there you go, I have a function. So if I refresh this one more time, boom, beautiful, no errors. So far, so good. Because I didn't put any code in this function, it's not going to do anything. So what happened? Well, I want to go back just to finish my talk. So it ends up in the web roots. In the web roots, it calls, typically we can do other stuff in web roots as well. It calls controller, and in that controller it opens a function, and then it executes that function. this function, if we are building a proper site, function should return HTML as a result, so our browser can display that on the page. So the whole idea is that this function returns some HTML. So let me do that and refresh this. There is a very useful command in Laravel, which is this dd, and dd means dump and die or something like that. So whatever is in the brackets is going to show on the screen, and after that is going to stop executing. Okay, so if I want to see some variable, value or something like that, or if I want to see is it executing my code, I can just put this quite quickly, and as you can see on the screen, I get the results. Okay, so I can also put name equal Andre. Oh, stupid. How to correct. Okay, and if I refresh this, it will put hello, and then it will put the value of this variable name, so it will put Andre on the text. Okay, this is not exactly HTML, but what Laravel does for us, if I inspect this, this looks like HTML, or if I go and view page source of this page, it actually has some sort of HTML kind of, is some sort of JavaScript that it generates for us in order to display these things on our text. So quite useful, but we are not going to do that. Okay, what we want to do is display a page. Okay, so to display a page, well, I need to have a page that I want to display. Okay, so as I said before, the pages typically go inside of this resources, themes, Vuexi, because I'm using the theme, I think, views, and I have all sorts of pages here. Okay, so this is going to be where my page is going to live. Okay, so I'm going to put it where all the other pages are. So I'm going to call it YouTube page .blade.php. It's very weird combination that I have two dots. So Blade tells Laravel this is a Blade file, and then Laravel can apply its own little shortcuts and scripts, so it will make our life a little bit easier. PHP, it means that it is a PHP page, so it has to be processed as a part of programming. But typically what this is going to mainly have is some HTML inside. So it's a very, very weird combination of the things. Okay, so I need to tell this in this function to show me this page. Okay, how do I do that? Well, typically what I like to do is just like to say, hey, I can copy this from any other controller where I'm displaying a page and just say, okay, return view, and my view is called YouTube page. YouTube page. Okay, and this YouTube page is going to be HTML. And I'm going to have a body, and I'm going to have a title, hello and then I'm going to have a paragraph, guys. And I'm going to close the body, and I'm going to close the HTML. There are many things that you can install as part of VS Code to help you format this and type this easily. So, but I don't have any plugins here, so I have to type everything and make sure that everything works. So, what's going to happen now? If I press reload, it actually shows me this page. And if I right-click here and view page source, I have my HTML, my body, my H1, all of this, okay? Honestly, I could have done this much easier without Laravel, without the whole complication about web roots and controllers and stuff like that. I could have just created index.html, copy-paste this code, and display this information. That would be easier, but that's not. A dynamic page. This is a static page. So if you are using a static page which will just say, hello guys, use HTML. But in modern web applications, we pretty much never do. The content changes. So what I want to say here is hello Andre, or whoever is logged in. So I want to show the user's name. Okay, so I want to say hello Andre, or hello Sam, or Luana, or whoever is online logged into my page. Okay, so I need to know who is the user who logged in. Okay, I need to know that. And how do I know this? Well, okay. These are the comments, okay? The two slashes are comments, so this is obviously not executed. And so I typically like to do is write in English what I'm going to do, okay? So I want to get the logged in user, okay? I want to get the who is logged in user. So then I want to get its name, okay? And then I want to open a page which will display that name, okay? So that's what I want to do step by step, okay? I cannot open the page first and then get name later. Well, I can if I use completely different technology, which is Ajax and you know, that's Angular stuff and so on. I can do that, but in PHP, this is a standard way of things. I first process the order, get all the data that I need, and then I get the page. Now, Laravel has a very interesting thing, and this is very confusing, okay? And I will first copy this part to my controller and paste it here. If I want to pass some data from my controller to that blade page, I need to compact it. I need to make that data, which can be in any format. It can be an object, it can be a string, an array, and so on. I need to kind of put it in some sort of form that that page will be able to read, because it is kind of half HTML, half PHP, half some blade stuff. So Laravel uses this function compact, and this is confusing, okay? So if I say here, name is Michael, okay, this is my variable. In PHP, I use dollar in front of the name of variable, okay? So always, 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 always. But it would make sense that I put dollar name here, okay, because I want to compact that variable. However, this is where, you know, people are not that they try to make standards that make sense, but sometimes they fail. So for me, it will make perfect sense if I put my variables inside this function. But no, for some reason, Laravel didn't want to do that. They put the name of the variable without the dollar in quote like it's a string, but actually this is that variable. Confusing as hell. Okay, so this will pass word Michael to this thing. So if I go here, I can do here something like this. And if I go here and refresh this page, it says hello Michael. So as you can see, I did pass the value of the variable from my controller to the page, and I display that on my screen. So far, so good. So these curly brackets, double curly brackets, is the blade directive. So it's a shortcut code that tells Laravel to don't print $name, because if I remove them, HTML is stupid, okay? Guess what this is going to display? It's going to display whatever I typed. It's not going to figure out this is a variable, okay? So blade, if I put curly brackets like this, then Laravel says, this is not exactly just a text. The guy wants to display the value what's stored in this variable, okay? And that's what I indicate with the curly brackets. I can also type a PHP code. So I can start PHP code and say PHP echo, which is a command to print the name of the value. And then I close the PHP code. And if I refresh this, it will show me Michael, okay? So because, as I said, this is a PHP file, it gets processed, so I can program stuff here. But typically I don't want to do that. I just want to, in the blades, in the these pages that I display, I just want to display the information. All the programming needs to go inside the controller. Okay, so I will stick with the blade directive. So I will, that's the easiest one. So if I just put name, then it's going to work like that. Okay. So if I say name DD, okay, rename the variable and refresh this, boom, it doesn't work. Of course it doesn't work because I'm trying to get the variable called name and I don't have a variable called name anymore. Okay, so as you can see here on this error message, it says name is not defined. Of course it's not defined because I just called it something else. But it actually shows me, it highlights this line of code where it happened. So I can see name is not defined, this is that name, so this is the one which is not defined. So I know exactly where the error is. Now PHP and other software doesn't give you these errors so beautifully described. This is another feature of Laravel which helps us as a developers to get this type of thing. So PHP does report errors and does report all these details. However, Laravel creates this error page which I can use to figure out easily what is the issue with this page. Okay, so I can fix that and say, okay, either this is named DD, so I call it the same, and then I refresh. Okay, now I have another problem because in my view I still call it name. Okay, now I rename this variable to something named DD, whatever it is. But Laravel is so smart because it says, hey, you made a typo. Did you mean name DD? So it's so smart. And you have to just read what it tells you and be able to fix these issues. So It's so easy when you are using these nice correct tools. So of course, if I go to my thing and call name DD and refresh this one more time, it's going to work again. So just want to show you a little bit of this debugging without going to Xdebug, and I'll come back to your Xdebug a little bit later. So, but this is me hard coding the name of the user. Nobody here on the chat is called Michael, so I want to get the logged in user. Okay, and this is a thing that quite a lot of you will do immediately. How do I get the logged in user? Go to Google and Google it, okay? And this is where I'm going to say don't Google it. But I'm not going to say don't Google it right yet. I'm going to give you another example a little bit later to show you why Googling is not always the best solution, okay? So if I do this and refresh this page, it's going to throw an error probably. And the error is the class auth is not found. Okay, because I just put the name of the class that I want to use. Why is not found? Why is it found? Because I haven't kind of told it which was the full name of that class. And it assumed, again, Laravel smart, it assumed that it will be some class. If I didn't put the name, it will be in the same namespace, so it will be here. But he couldn't find it there, so it's not going to search every single folder on my computer for it. It just says I couldn't find it. However, if I put the backslash wherever it is on my keyboard and refresh this, it's going to work. Now, backslash is a little cheap trick, okay? Because if I only have one auth class, which I do in this case, it's going to find it, okay? And auth is a class that Laravel does for the users who are logged in, okay? This is an interesting one. Let's use DD user, okay, and semicolon. So if you remember, this will dump the value of the variable user on the screen, and it will die stop executing. So it's not going to execute this bit, it will just show me what this user is. Okay, so if I refresh this page, this is my user. It tells you straight away what type of variable it is. So this is an object which is type app models user or user, so it's a user object, which has a number of parameters attached to it. It calls it attributes, okay? So this is my username, this is my name, my last name, I am apparently a female, this is my phone number if you want to call me, and if you want to write to me, this is my address which is stored in the database, okay? It's incorrect, but... So this is my user. So I have all the information about my user. What I care about this user is my first name. So I care about is this specific attribute or parameter, whatever you want to call it. So if I want to get that, I will say don't dd, but I will say name is $user, so all this arrow, I call this arrow, I don't know what's called, first name. I think it was first name, it is first name all lowercase. So if I refresh this page one more time, now it says hello Andre. Okay, and if you are logged in with any other username, it will show you that username of that user. If you are not logged in, then of course it's not going to work. So you have to log in before this happens. Any questions before I move on? No questions, all clear so far, I guess. So let me log out. And let me go to this page again, what's called YouTube example. It fails. And again, we can see exactly where it fails. It fails on this line number 12. It tries to get a first name of a non-object. Which object is non-object? This user. Where is the user defined? Here. What is user? Is the logged in user. So if I am not logged in, how the hell is it going to find my name? It's not. It's going to complain about it. So this is what we want to do. We want to make sure that user is logged in order for our code to work. Okay. So if the user needs to be logged in, I can check. I can put here if command, if the user is logged in and so on. But I can do something much more smarter in this way. So let me see where I can find it in one of these. That's the one. I'll just copy the whole thing and then I'll just delete it. And if I refresh this page, boom. So when I was talking about structure the other day, I mentioned that there is a thing called middleware, and middleware is quite interesting and quite useful. Okay, why is it interesting and useful? Because it gets executed before my controller. Okay, so and I put it in a construct. Okay, so whenever this controller is made, so Laravel makes this controller from this class, so it makes the object, okay, and when it's made, it makes sure that this, whoever is accessing this, has to be authorized, so has to log in. Okay, so we created this middleware which will just check, is the user logged in? If it's not, well, send them to the login page. When I log in here, and I type my username and password, Laravel is so smart, not just to give me a login page, but also redirect me to the page that I requested originally. Okay, which is, quite handy. I didn't have to type any of that code handling all these issues. I just said use middleware auth, and boom, it works like a charm. So typically most of our pages will have request that user is logged in, except for few home pages, login page and so on, that of course they are not logged in, so they will not have this thing in their construct method. What I want to do next is now I want to actually style this. So this page right now is not styled. And I want to explain you how this is going to work. So my page is this page here. Okay, that's my page. If I look at this page, I will just copy that to my page instead of this. And section, I'll copy that. And I need one more thing. Probably not this one. But I'll show you with this one. So if I press a reload, you see this save function is very useful. I don't have to click save 50 million times. It's styled. It's a different style. It uses different font and different colors, I think, even. But what I want to do is layouts. I think I have this thing called master layout, so I'm going to use master layout. So if I refresh this page one more time, I get all this. And if I do that, see, I got the whole menu, left, right, and so on. Because when I create the website, which will be dynamic, and it will have multiple pages, I want those pages to look and feel the same. So on every page, I need a top bar, I need some sort of footer, I might need a left bar, and I need some functionality, basic functionality like notifications. I'm not going to program this for every single page again and again and again. So Laravel, for that thing called created layouts. Okay, so every page that I have can extend a different layout, and I can create my own layout if I want to. Okay, and I did. This is my layout how I want these pages to look like. Okay, this $extends is a blade command. It's a shortcut which just says, hey, this page will use this layout. And then this section will be the content section. So this is the beginning of my content of this page. This is the end. So let's look at this master layout. Okay. So HTML head, forget about these for the time being. So I have my standard HTML, I have my head, and then it says includes head. So again, another blade command. So I have to show you this again, includes head. Okay, so basically it includes all this. After it includes that, it finishes the head, and then it starts the body. And then it includes the left bar. So includes left bar. So this is the code for the left bar that you see here. This is the left bar. So it renders this on every page, whatever that is. After the left bar, it includes the top bar. So the top bar is this one here. So it renders this part. After I finished with the top bar, it includes notificate. Notificate is my little thing which pops up here when you do something. So it's like a toast, like a little notification which appears for 3 seconds and it goes away. And it shows the message, whatever that message is. So, but it doesn't have to be on every page. It's just if there is a message, it will show it. If there isn't, it won't show it. So that's notificate. And then it creates div, blah, blah, blah. And then says print the content. Which content this prints? Well, it prints the content of my page. But any other page which uses the same layout will be printed here. Okay, so if I have a terms page, same thing. It has its own content wherever it begins, section and section, so yeah, so this is the content starts here and then ends there. So that's the content of terms and conditions page. The content of my page, much simpler. So that's the content. Closes these divs that we open and then includes the footer, which is this little thing at the bottom, copyright, upsource, stuff like that. So it's this guy here, which says, give me this version of the code and then put me the name of version and so on. And then the last thing is include scripts, which loads all the JavaScripts in the world that I need for this page, and some additional scripts and so on. And that's what is loaded at the end. So that's why I got all this, and I got all this functionality, and I got these notifications. I can go read notifications if I want to, and I can go back to my example, and doesn't matter. So let's style this. Let's make this different. How do I do that? How do I apply the CSS and JavaScript and so on and so on? Well, there are two ways. If I want this hello to be in red, I will typically type something like, I don't know, style equals color red or something like that. I don't know. But does this work? No, not very good at CSS. So apply. So I can show you the Googling. HTML, how to apply color to text. And then there is this W3 schools, which is quite great. Color, not color, thank you, Thomas, accept, and so on. And says tag name, style, property, value, great. So I have background color is powder blue, or so I misspelled the word color. Okay, so let's try that. Go back to my thing, call it's American versus British spelling, and refresh this, and wow, it's red. Very simple. If I want to make this font bigger, I can do that as well. Just go to the same page or Google and say how to make HTML, how to make a bigger font. HTML, how to make bigger font. CSS font size are great. Okay, so font size 40 pixels. Okay, so there you go. Font size. Okay, so style font size is, so I copy that and I go here and I think I need semicolon if I remember, and I say I don't want these units, I want pixels. And if I go to my page and refresh this, boom, it's nice and large. If I say 140 pixels, I think you all know what's going to happen, boom, even bigger. But this is not what I want you to do. This is the most horrible thing to do. Okay, it's so easy to do, but it is horrible. Okay, because if I have 50 of these pages, on each page, on each title, H1 is my title of the page, I will have to copy paste the same code for every single page. So let's say I have 40 pages. On each page I have 3 titles. There's 120 titles, so I have to copy paste 120 times this same thing. Great. And unfortunately there's no other way. I have to do it one way or the other. Even my smart way that I'm going to tell you later, I still have to paste 140 times. But the problem is, if I want to change this color from red to green, I have to go to every single red and change it to the green on all 140 places. Okay? But if I use a smart thing, then I don't have to do that. I can just define it in a CSS file, what my default values are for each one, etc., etc., and this reads the H1 and applies that color. So I just need to change it on one specific location. So let's inspect this for the second. Okay, so this element that I want to inspect, okay, so this is the one, inspect that guy. So it says color is red. Okay, so that's my color. If I delete this color red and this whole style thing and go back to this page and refresh it and inspect this guy here again, color is 5e, whatever it is, and height, and so on and so on. I can see all the details. So what it has happened, it opened a file called core CSS, which if I put my mouse over it, will tell me exactly where it is, which file it is, and it will tell me which line where it's roughly defined. So I can find this file and change this color to red if I want this in red. So my admin resources team works in CSS core CSS. Okay, so if I Control P or core.css, so it is my admin resources team works, so that's the one. Okay, and it says roughly line 356 or something like that. So if I jump to that line, yeah, there you go, H1, and color is that. And I say, okay, I don't want that, I want that color. Okay, beautiful. If I refresh this page, nothing happens. Any idea why? I just changed it and it's saved and it's, you know, everything that I wanted to do. There are two things here with CSS. So first thing is that CSS browser caches. Okay, so right now my browser, every time when I press this refresh button, is not going to load every single CSS file again. It doesn't know I changed it, so it uses the first value. So I have to do some hard refresh of the browser, and then it will show me that color. So if I can't remember what was it, there was some command F5 or something like that.
Welcome to VoiceOver. VoiceOver speaks descriptions of items on the screen.
I managed to switch on some crazy voiceover thing on my Mac, so I have no idea what's the hard refresh on the Mac. Doesn't matter. But the thing is that it's not going to change this color immediately. Second thing is, this is not what I want you to do as well. So while you can change this color here, this will change the color of every other page that I'm using H1 on. Of all my past pages, future pages, and so on. Okay, I didn't want that. I just wanted to change the red on this page. Okay, so somebody says click reload. Same thing still. So I'm not going to change these things, okay? I'm going to leave them as they are, okay? What I'm going to do is really depends on what I want to accomplish. So if this is a global color, I'm going to change it in this core CSS file. If every single H1, H2, H3 and all the titles need to be red or whatever color I chose, I will change it here. If they have to be in a part of the pages, okay, so let's say all the administration pages or the profile pages, I want them to be red for some reason, then I'm going to create another layout, and all the pages that need that specific color will extend that layout. So I don't have to go global, I'm kind of going going for a group. Or if only my page uses this, then I'm going to define it on the page level. Okay, so I can define it on the page level, on the group of pages, or global thing. Okay, so here in the master layout, when I'm including head, this is an interesting one. Including head says yield page style. So after it loads all the CSS files, including my core CSS, how we made this is that after that you can override these standard global ones with your custom page styles. So if I have here in my page a thing called add section page style, can't remember what's it. I'll go back. Okay, so if I go, see, I have too many of these already. So it's in my head. It's called page dash style. Okay. So whatever I define here is going to be a style that I can use specifically for this page. Okay. So whatever I want to override, I can override here. Okay. So let me show you that one of those examples that we opened in HTML styles, it had, was it this one, was it this one? Okay, so you can say, okay, H1 font size is that. So let's copy that. And let's stick it in my blade page. And then I can put color red. Okay, so let's see what's that going to do. Maybe it will work, maybe it won't. Boom. It says H1 font color, it reads it like I typed the text, which of course I did, because I forgot to put style. There you go. So now if I put 120 pixels, there you go. So with this, I'm just going to make a little break now, because we are going to go in a little bit more details of object-oriented programming, but as you wanted a little break, so 3-4 minute break. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, but talk to you all later in 3 minutes. Please put them in. Hello guys, I'm back. People said my mic is still on, so if you are hearing all my cold related sounds, I apologize about that. There were some questions and some suggestions, like in Chrome you can go to Network tab and disable caching. So if I go to Network tab here, I should have somewhere disable caching option. Here it is, so hopefully that will refresh my CSS every time when I reload the page. Useful little tip. Where did I get the auth class? As I said to you guys before, Laravel, when you load index.php, executes a large number of commands, including checking is there a session, is a user logged in, and it provides me with all these little helpers, such as auth, so I can easily grab who is the authorized user. Okay. If I had to write that code myself, it would be extremely long and complex. This makes my life simpler. I need authorized user. I just grab it like that. Why does a backslash work? Because backslash works only in case if there's only one of those auth classes. You know, if there are two, it's going to complain and say, well, I don't know which one of those two you mean because I loaded two different auth classes. But in this case, it works. But it shouldn't be used. It's a little, again, trick how I can not type that use command at the top or whatever it's called. So hopefully that understands, that explains what I wanted to show. So I showed you basic of CSS, and I can in the same way add a JavaScript to this. Okay, so if I want some JavaScript to execute when I, let's say, click on this hello, I can do exactly the same thing. I can edit the main JavaScript files which are loaded. If you know this footer left bar, I don't care, scripts. So see, at some point it has this yield page script. So I go to my page and I can have a section page script. Okay. And end section. And what I want to do here, I'm just going to use very quick some JavaScript. Where is the search thing on this thing? Search alert. What the hell is this? JavaScript alert. I never remember these things. Window alert method. Yeah, there you go. That's the one that I want to do. Control C, and I stack it in here. And the same way that I am going to do like before, this is going to say, what the hell are you on about? Because this is a script, I think, and then I have to do that. Nope. Oh, it doesn't know what section is because I didn't put the right command. So again, it tells me exactly where my problem is. I can see it. It says undefined property. I don't know what that is. So hopefully I fixed it now and I got this alert. And when I click OK, I got my page. So same way, if I have a JavaScript that only executes on this page, I can easily add it just like that. Of course, I can add functionality to this hello and say on click, for example, call a specific JavaScript function which I define here and so on. But I'm not going to go in those details right now. So that's my page. That's how I do HTML. That's how I do CSS. That's how I make a custom route, custom controller, and so far so good. But I wanted to spend to do two more things. I wanted to actually do something more intelligent than just say hello, Andre. Okay, I wanted to do some sort of processing. Okay, what do I want to do? Okay, so what can I do with this user thing? One thing what I asked you guys to do is to install this database plugin, okay? And if you install the database plugin and you connect to it, you should have my admin table, my admin database, and you can see the tables inside. And if I go to the tables, I can see all my users, and then it's going to list all my users, including this user Andre that I'm authorized user. So if I call this user Bruno and press enter, it's updated the database, and if I refresh this page, I got my alert, but it's actually going to display my new name. So I just changed the data in the database so easily with this plugin. So how would I get all the users in the database? I want all of their names. So I want in Giuseppe and Roy and Andy and Christopher. I want just to list every single user that I have here. So I want to put all their names. Okay. So I don't want to do that. So I want to get all names of users. And then open a page which will display all names. So basically what I have to do is connect to the database. And to connect to the database, you all know you have to log in with the database credentials, and then you have to execute the SQL command, which will be select star from the users, and you want to then specify, but don't give me star, just give me names. And let's say I want those names to be in alphabetical order. I just want first three names or something like that, you know. So that makes that SQL command extremely complicated, okay? So this is why I wanted to show you, okay, if I Google this PHP, I can put PHP, but if you don't, then it's going to be even worse. Display the names of all users in the database. So you Google exactly what you want to do. Okay? So this guy is doing exactly what I kind of described now. He is going to put his database connections. He is going to make a function that will connect to the database, okay? Then he is setting some attributes, but he's missing the thing, okay? So here's his SQL select star from the user. So then he's making a query, and then he's making a table, and then he's going through this list of results, and then he's in PHP echoing some HTML, so table role, table data, and so on, but it even doesn't work for him, okay? And then somebody is trying to fix him and help him and so on. So if I Google this, I can find all this information, and if you copy paste this, it's not going to work in your code. Even if this is the correct solution, it's not going to work. It's too complicated. It's not the right solution. Google doesn't know exactly what you want, and you don't know how to ask the Google what you want. So my advice to new developers is do not Google. because whatever you find the result, even if it works, is going to be completely and utterly wrong. Okay? Do not Google. Don't Google anything. I know you are like, yeah, but no, don't Google. Okay? What do you do instead? You read the documentation. You need to read the documentation of what things that you are exactly doing. Okay, so you need to know exactly what you are going to do. Okay, so what I'm going to find is a Laravel documentation. So this is a Laravel documentation. Now, one thing that you need to know with any documentation is that you have to use the correct version of the documentation. Sorry, my cat is just passing around. So in these things is Laravel 4.2. So even if I'm Googling this, it's probably going to open the wrong one. I think we are using Laravel 8 or 7 or something like that. So the things have changed quite a bit. Okay. So this is the documentation. And this is written in a very, let's call it, dry format. Okay. And you need to get used to it. It's not answering your question. Okay. So if I go to collections, doesn't exactly give me the right answer. Because if I read all this text, because it explains how it works, but I don't want users which are active. I want all users. I want their names. Okay, so, and it says available methods and find and wherein and accept, but it does say user all. So it takes a little bit of time to read the documentation. By reading the documentation, you will find what you are looking for, but you will also learn what other possibilities you have. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to copy this because I want to get all the users, okay? And if I go to my web page and refresh this page, it says class user not found. Of course it's not found because I didn't define where that user class is. Okay, so the user that I want to use is in my models. It's this user class. Okay, so app models user. So what I need to do here is define that. Okay, so you define that by saying command use, and then you put the name of the class, or so I say use app models user. Okay, semicolon. So if I refresh this now, undefined variable name. So that finds this, but the name is not defined. Of course it's not defined. I just deleted that line which defines it. Okay, but what I want to do right now is try to debug this. Okay, so I will put a breakpoint on this line. I will go to debug mode and I will press play here. Okay, and then I got this orange thing, so say it's listening to my debugger. And I don't need this anymore, and I will refresh this, and boom, it stopped on my first line, which I did put before last time, so it remembers my breakpoints. I can kill it and click play. Okay, continue, and boom, it stopped at the breakpoint which I designed it to stop. Okay, it stopped just before this line, so it hasn't executed this line. It stopped before this line. So what I want to do, I have two options. I can press play and it will continue and finish the whole code, which I don't want to do. I want to see what happens here. I can press step over, which will just go to the next line, which is this one here. So it will execute this line. Or I can step into this and see what is the code behind this whole thing. I don't want to step into this because the code is quite complex. Okay, so in this case, I will just step over. Okay. So what happened is that variable users is now defined. And the type of variable is a collection. And it's a Laravel collection. Illuminate is all the Laravel stuff. So it's an eloquent collection. So it's something that Laravel defined for us, but it's not a Laravel. This comes from other frameworks before Laravel. They just adopted it and made it a little bit even better. So what's the users? Well, users is a collection of items, and it has 19 items. Okay, so the first item is a user. The second item is a user. The third item is also a user. So every single item in this collection is a user. So my first user, where's this thing? Can't make it bigger, doesn't matter. So my first user has not that. I'm looking for the properties, attributes. There I go, is last thing. So my first user is Bruno Fabris. My second user is the second user from the database. So if I scroll here, it's going to have 5033, it's this guy. My fifth user is so annoying. This lady, Esther, and so on and so on. So these are my users. So Laravel makes it so easy for us to get every single user that I want with extremely short type of code. It connects to the database, fetches all of them, puts them in some sort of collection. So I have all the users. Okay, and I can see that inside this Xdebug. I can stop Xdebug here, and I could have also done this dd users. Okay, so as you know, dd is this dump and dial. So I got a collection with 19 items, and if I expand this, I will get 19 users, and I expand this and I expand attributes. It's going to be this user, Blender test user, or this one will be whatever, so these are the same users that I have. Some Liechtenstein, Royal Liechtenstein, interesting. So I'm not going to do that. dd delete, and I'm going to pass users to my view. So I go to my view, and now I want to run a loop. I want to go through all of those users, okay? So I can type a PHP code, I can type a blade shortcuts for each. I think it's something like this. Users as user, I think, and then and for each. And I want to print in a paragraph user first name. Something like that. So if I refresh this page, alert box, and then I have first names of every single user that it is in my database. Cat, you can't be part of this. Silly little guy. There you go. So, any questions? So I said, do not Google, read the documentation, okay? So this is a Laravel's very useful system of commands that is extremely powerful, that deals with the database, that deals with the anything we can want to, okay? So we can say, find me users except these ones, or users which have the specific things, or with the specific name, and so on, okay? And at the end of this whole line, typically it gives me all the functions that I can actually ask. So where status is VIP, okay? So I can specify the filters. So let's think about the filter that we can specify. So if I go to my users table, okay, and this is, okay, so I have gender, okay, so let's find all the users which are female, all right? So I need that, okay? So I go back to my code, and instead of all users, user where gender, so that's the name of my column, so I want this column, and the value I want to be female, okay? And if I go back to my page and refresh it, boom, these are all the female users. If I switch this to male, all my male users. What else is here? For example, I can get users first. But this will fail. Boom. Even if this is a valid command, it fails, but it fails because it's very important from the documentation to read what you get when you call certain functions, okay? So let me find that Laravel collection get collections. No, that's not what I want. Available methods. Can't find it right now. But let me show you what's the difference, okay? So if I dd users or debug it, basically users variable now is a type of a single user. And if I have all, and refresh this, see this now is going to be a collection, and then items of collection are user. Okay, so when we are using the functions that somebody else built for us, okay, we have to read the documentation and find that function, which I can't just quickly find right now. I have to spend some time looking for it and read what it returns to me. Because if it returns a collection, then there are many items in collection. Then I can do that for each loop. So I can go through the collection and get each element's first name. But if I said, get me a first element in the collection, then I just get the element. I can't iterate through one element because it's the only one, so it's going to complain about it. Okay, so this is why all these functionalities like first, last, get, and so on are important to understand and that comes from the description. What does this function do? And it is typically described inside your documentation. Any questions? Of course, I can get any other information from my database. So if I want to get what roles exist inside the database or whatever these means, like what clients exist in a database and so on, I can get that in a very similar way. What we are going to do when we go in one of the next lessons, we are going to start talking about how do I create, read, update, and delete. So we are going to cover this in much more details, but I just want to give you the basics of it, okay? So you understand the whole process, how we are creating dynamic pages, why we are using frameworks like Laravel, why does it make it so easy for us with 2 lines of code, how to find the information, that we are looking for. Don't Google it, use the documentation of Laravel, read it, make sure it's the right version of Laravel, because they do change quite dramatically from one version to another. Try it out, play it. But what we want to do is, as I promised you on the first lesson, is a project problem-based learning. And this is a problem from the real life. So we have a real project, okay? And this project is called Al-Siha, which means health in Arabic. But it's also called AI Siha, okay? Because we are going to use AI for something. We developed a demo MVP version, proof of concept version, okay? And we submitted that to the government of Netherlands, which liked it and decided to give us more money. So now we have to develop a proper solution for Tunisian market. Okay, what is the solution all about? Well, the problem that we have is that whole internet is really good if you speak English. So if you're looking for scientific papers on English, you will find millions and millions and millions of scientific papers. If you speak French, you will find 1/6 of that. So 5/6 of all the scientific papers are gone. They don't exist in French or German or Russian. If you speak Arabic, even worse. Okay, so the problem is that internet is really good if you speak English. If you speak Arabic, it's not very good to find good information about whatever science you're looking for. So if you would like to know something about your health, check some health-wise information, what's this pimple over here, should I be worried, is this cancer, or is it just a pimple, can I squeeze it, or what do I do if I'm pregnant, and all the other questions you might have about your health, or something hurts me here, or I have a cold, is it cold or corona, how do I test myself? All that information is not available. Especially if you are in some rural parts where education is not available for everyone, not everybody goes to school, especially if you are of a gender which is not encouraged to go to school at some places, so this information, even if it was available, it would be hard to get. So what we want to do here is actually make sure that this information is available to everybody who speaks Arabic. Doesn't matter what their background is. Do they live in a city? Are they male or female? Are they rural or not? We want to give them reliable information about their health. So what we are using is the English texts, but we need to translate it to Arabic. What we did, we used Google Translate and a few other translation engines and translated everything into Arabic and gave it to Arabic people in Tunisia. Actually, we gave it the app to them and say, okay, well, tell us what's wrong with it. And they went through it and they say, well, this was wrong, this is wrong. So pretty much every other word was incorrectly translated with Google. Then we calculated the number of words, the number of suggestions that these testers made, and we discovered that Google is 40% accurate, okay, when it translates the languages like English to Arabic. So you can get the gist of it. You say, yeah, it is talking about my head, not about my leg, but it's not very precise at all. And medical information needs to be precise, okay? So what we want to do is develop the application which will translate this language from English to Arabic with 99% accuracy. So Google can make it, we can. That's our idea. Easily said and done. But one little step at a time. So we are going to create this application, but as I said, we already have an application built for the testing purposes. So today I'm going to show you how to get this application on your computer. Okay, so right now you probably have some files here and my admin. On my computer I have a few more like Blender and my Venue, but that's not a thing. So what I want to do is I want to go to my terminal, and I can use the terminal of my Ubuntu or terminal of my Macintosh computer or terminal which comes here built in, so I can say new terminal if it's not displayed. So I'm in my sites folder where all my websites is, so my admin and so on. So I'm going to make directory and I'm going to call it AI Siha. That's the name of my project. So now I have empty directory where my application is going to be. I'm going to go into that directory, so change directory to that one. And one cool thing about this, I don't have to type the whole thing. If I just type first few letters and press tab next to, I get the name. It's empty right now. So I need to clone the repository. Repository is this one here, so I'm going to clone this, and later on I'll give you the link in the description. So I'm going to clone this URL. So git clone, and at the end I have to put dot. Dot is important because otherwise I'm going to have another folder inside the folder. This little AppSource app that we are using, GitBlit, has a bug which gives me a wrong thing, so I have to change this to 8080 and this has to be HTTP. So this is the correct link, and if I press enter, it clones all the code that we have here. So this is all my code. Great. I got the code. Now I need to have a database. There are multiple things. I can use this database stuff that I installed this plugin, but I'm going to use AppSource database. So I'm going to go here. Okay, and I'm going to go to my admin utilities database. If you have a different version of AppSource, it's going to be somewhere up here. And here I have some databases, so it's the same stuff that I see on my screen in VS Code. So I can create a database and I'm going to say AI SIHA. What's cool about this guy is actually going to create the database. So database has been created, and the SQL command, you can see actually which SQL command it executed. So it's quite useful to learn these few tricks. So if you want, you can click on here and it will show you which command it did. And now I want to import the database, okay? And the database, typically what we like to do is bundle the database with this thing, okay? So this is the database that I want to import, okay? So Absolute Database SQL comes when I pulled all the files and I clone them. So there is the database that I want to import here. Choose file. And now I need to go to my sites, AI SIHA, and I go to my Absolute Database SQL. And now I'm going to have a problem. The size of the database is 26 megabytes. So when I click open, it tells me here that this has to be less than 2 megabytes in size. So if I press execute, it's too big. So I have to change my PHP configuration to take bigger files. So one of the homework for you guys is to do that. Figure out how to change PHP to take bigger files in order to import this database. I'm not going to show you right now, so I'll show you next time if you are stuck. So, but I need to import this database, okay? So let me try to import it through this thingy here. So if I refresh that, reload, here's AI SIHA. Okay, and I right click, import SQL, and then I say that one, select SQL file to import, and it says success. Great. So there's all my stuff. Sorry, just 1 second, let me... I'm called. So I have my database, I have my application, so I have my code, I have my database. But the problem, the last thing that I have to do, I don't have that application here, okay? So I need to get this application somehow connected to my app source. How do I do that? So in the list of apps, you might have these 4, you might have more, but I actually need to have a new application. So I need to create application, and there is a file that we supply with every application, including this one. It's called this AppSource install file. So this gives you all the information that you need to put here in order to create this application. So, oops. So let me do it like that so I can see both of these at the same time. Application ID is that, name is that, icon is that, front end nothing, back end is this, login path nothing, database name is AI SIHA, cron job would be all this. So I'm copying everything between the quotes. I'm not copying the quotes themselves, okay? Oh my god. Okay. Roles nothing, is plugin false, backup nothing. So this looks like I filled everything in. So save. Okay. So now I have the application AI SIHA, which is great. but this application has no users assigned to it. So I want to assign myself as a user of the application. So I say manage users, and then I find myself. So I am this guy now. Change my name. So I click Grant. So now I should have AI Siha application listed, and here it is. So it appears on my list of applications. So to repeat, in order to install the application, I need to copy the code, I need to import the database, I need to create the application and grant it to myself. So hopefully, if this worked well, which it will not, I will be able to open this famous application. Oh, wow, it works. I'm actually surprised. Because what happens, if you remember, I didn't change the ownership of the files and I didn't change the permissions. Okay, so they have default ownership and default permissions because I used my user AF to get cloned, so everything will be AF. So right now, this application just read the things, which works fine. But if it was trying to write something, it would fail. So again, as a homework, you have to make sure that all of these are AF or whatever your username is, www.data, and files that folders that need to be enabled for writing are 777. Because this is another Laravel application, it will be storage and bootstrap folders. So you can make sure that happens. So this application is really basic, okay? It is just proof of concept. There's nothing else. So right now, what I can see is some of the conditions. I think there are around 3,000 conditions, so like alcohol poisoning. So if I click on that, hopefully it will give me the text, okay, explaining what alcohol poisoning is, okay? And it gives me a good advice. Never leave a person who has alcohol poisoning just to sleep it off. Okay. This is what we want to see in Arabic text. Okay. So this is what needs to be displayed in Arabic text. However, there is one more. Okay. Because nobody is going to use a website for this. Is going to use a mobile application. So this database and stuff like that is connected to the mobile application. So mobile application, just 10 minutes before the call, I tried to copy it. So I have another folder, which I'm going to open right now, called mobile development. And inside of this mobile development, I again git cloned a different link, which is AI Siha mobile application, which runs for Android and iOS, and it's built in React Native. Okay, so there is another link here, which this is the backend, the stuff, the web application. But there is also right next to it in repositories here mobile application. So this one here is a mobile application. So this is what I cloned in order to get the mobile application. And mobile application is another thing that we are going to do. Of course, we are not going to do it right now, right today, so one step at a time. But we have a website backend where we can log in, we can do lots of different things, translations, apply AI if we want to, and so on, call external APIs of Google, etc., see how all that works. But then also, how do I build the mobile application, how do I connect it to it, and so on. So you will see all of that throughout our next number of lessons. And of course, you are going to make this application better, because right now this is just a very basic application, but we are going to make it much better. We are actually going to make application for the market. Okay, so in that case, what we want to do is have even a website, proper nice website in Arabic and so on, which will be this AI Siha .com, I think. Yep, that's ours. So that's the application that we built already that you can actually download, but it's only Android version. So if you want to try it, you can. It's going to be in Arabic, but please download it if you want to. You can give us a survey that we want. So this website is running UpSource. Does have this AI Sikha, but also some other bits that you will see all about. So we're going to update this, make this completely and utterly ready for the end users. And when we are talking Arabic language, there are, I think, 300 million people speaking Arabic in the area. So it's not just Tunisia, it's Morocco and all the other countries. Arabic is the most requested language that people translate English from on Google search. So the highest number of requests are from English to Arabic. So this is something that people really, really need, and information about health is extremely important. How do I know it's extremely important? Because on a Google Play, the top application in UK is NHS app, which gives this information. That's the top by downloads. It has 70 million unique users per month. There are no 70 million in UK, so people use that application outside of the UK, So it's a really, really important project that we are going all together to work on. So we are going to make this really lovely project, help lots of people in the progress, but also learn how to program. So that's our goal for next few weeks and months. Hope you liked it. Any questions? If you have, please type them on the chat. If not, clone AI Sikha, import the database, fix the PHP ini file so you can take the bigger files than 2 megabytes. That's all your homework. Make sure that you create the AI Sikha app, that you can give yourself rights, that you can open AI Sikha app, what I just did. Download the mobile application on your phone if you have Android, but also download the code for the mobile application. But we are not going to touch that yet. But if you download it, you can play with it, see React Native a little bit if you want to check, try to run it. It's not going to be easy. I do not have access to databases on UpSource. You don't need access to databases on UpSource. The database, when you pull the code, so let me just switch to sites. When you get the call for AI Sikha, so I created this directory, then I get cloned, then I got all these files, and one of the files was the database that you need to import. So you don't need access to the databases. The database export file comes with it. You just need to import it in your local database as such. Ahmed Hamouda sent us some message in Arabic language. So, it would be lovely if we have some sort of application which would translate it from Arabic to English with a precision of 99%, so we know exactly what he means. Any other questions or comments? Last minute. Not really. He said, of course. Well, Khalil, you speak the language, but the same process that we do here for Arabic, we can do for any other language afterwards. So we can do Turkish, Russian, Indian, Gujarati, I don't know. I don't care. Any other language, they have the same problem, So if we manage to pull this out for Arabic, we can do it for any other language. But then we don't have to stick to medical text. We can actually do this for all the other types of important text. So this is a really cool project, and this is why the Dutch government liked it. It was ranked number 2 on the list of all the projects that applied for these grants, and they're really keen to see it working, and so am I. So I think we'll all enjoy working on this and feel good when hopefully we manage to help somebody, and maybe even save somebody's pain and even worse things. Well, guys, that's it for today. I hope that you enjoyed the session. As usual, send me all the feedback. We'll talk again next Tuesday. Hopefully I'll feel better and my voice will be better next time, but hope it was good. Have fun. Bye bye.